Oh, hey folks, you never thought you'd see this big beast again? Well, as you can see, I'm gearing up to get ready for a race. Wait a minute, you don't know where I'm gonna race at? Well, hold on to your horses, because I wasn't talking about an actual race. I'm actually talking about a really creative racer that's on the PSP. So, let's rev up our engines as I present to you my impressions on ModNation Racers on the PSP, baby! ModNation Racers is a racing game developed by United Front Games for the PS3 and SCE San Diego Studios for the PSP, and both versions are published by Sony Computer Entertainment. However, the demo we are covering is that of the PSP version, and this is where I give my thanks to the PlayStation Network for sending me and many others an early voucher code to download the demo. Anyway, ModNation Racers is also the second game in Sony's library of properties to have a huge emphasis for gamers to create their own content and make them playable online through user-generated content, or UGC. Possibly the best kart racing series out there is the Mario Kart franchise, but does ModNation Racers seem like it'll surpass Mario Kart because of its user-generated content feature? Let's find out! There is no story that takes place in the ModNation Racers demo, but I do know for a fact that there will be one that is being made by professional Hollywood writers for the final version of the game. Anyway, the premise is for you and many players to race each other in selected tracks through its Race Studios and Edit Studios modes. In the demo, you have 2 pre-made racetracks that you can select from, and you can compete in each race for first place to earn more creator content for the track creator mode, characters to have as your racing mods, newer vehicles to drive with, and newer levels to race on in Race Studios mode. It does take a page from Mario Kart, but it isn't a bad thing because it is not just plain races with static tracks. The biggest thing that this game has going for it is its user-generated content in Edit Studios mode. This takes a page from Little Big Planet's level creator feature, and this is the second game to have it. Players can do all sorts of things with their creator tracks, like add in more props, hazards, and do many other cool things like raising the terrain of the track, changing the weather, and set the time of day as to where you want the sun to be set at. You can even create your own mods, and be on the lookout for characters from Sony's brand to appear in the game in playable forms such as Ratchet and Clank from their own franchise and Kratos from God of War. There are so many variables that this game has on hand, and the creativity is more to have you come, create, and play the mini tracks within the game and the online community. ModNation Racers controls are very well done for the portable device. Aside from most games trying to be realistic and very shoddy with their control schemes, ModNation resorts to having the game feel like it has come from an arcade. When racing against the NPCs, you can do things like fill your boost meter based on the air tricks and drifts you do, collect power-ups to damage your opponents, and use shields to protect yourself from danger. Now when filling your boost meter, this is where you can use it to make your carts go faster and to generate the shields. Not only can you drift, but you can jump up in a short distance to hop over hazards that could prevent you from taking first place. Let us not forget that you can use the brakes and the accelerator to make your car slow down and speed up. The last thing to note is that the select button is a suicide button. No, I'm just kidding, it's a respawn button. Very funny as to when you hit it, your racer will go kaboom! Not much purpose it has, but it's probably for more of the comic relief as this game is cartoonish. Speaking of which, the design for the PSP game is really well done with the detail for the levels, but the graphic capabilities are nowhere near polished as the PS3 version. With the handheld, that is to be expected, but it is good with its graphical prowess. The levels through Race Studios mode are very dynamic, and the animation on the hazards is generic, standard, and very recognizable. Even the lighting and shadows are nicely in place, as they are not that intense in the game's engine. Overall, the design is nice for the PSP. Marc Baril lends his gaming music talents for both versions of ModNation Racers, and some of his past work are the more recent Crash Bandicoot games, Scarface the World Is Yours, and Prototype by Activision. His music has more of a rocking vibe to the levels, and it doesn't go for a classical music approach like Mario Kart in the Gran Turismo games. It works well, and some of the tunes are sort of catchy. The sound effects are nicely done to give representation of kart sounds, Foley effects, weather, and the different power-ups. There is no voice acting in this game, but you do hear an announcer voice, which isn't that boring at all. He may give you gags about what you are doing wrong, but at least it adds to the comic relief of this game's comedic feeling. Everything is nice in what is heard by far. ModNation Racers looks like it is going to be so much fun for the PS3 and the PSP. Both versions are good for you to play the game at home and to play the game on the go.
One thing I do hope for this game to have is connectivity with exchanging data on created content between the PS3 and the PSP, which will most likely happen. I even think this is where Nintendo is going to have to step it up a notch if it hopes to remain king of the hill in kart racing games, as ModNation goes all out with having a huge emphasis with online sharing. If you have a PS3 or a PSP, be sure to buy the game, and you can guarantee that I'll buy both versions and do a review of both of them in one episode, later on down the road in 2010. When May 25th, 2010 comes, go check it out.